The difference between a paper that gets rejected and a paper that changes clinical guidelines is relevant. Our research question basically structures the whole paper you will write. What exactly are you going to try to answer in this paper? In this video, I'm going to show exactly how to build a research question that is impossible to reviewers to ignore. This is massively important because you can have the best statistical tool software in the world or work at the most renowned institution in your area, but if your research question is too vague, too broad, uninteresting, or boring, your systematic review will be a total waste of time. Hi, I'm Dr. Katsuyama. I'm a medical doctor from Brazil and currently the Director of Education in the Meta-Analysis Academy, where we help thousands of students from many countries to learn science throughout systematic review and meta-analysis. Through the Meta-Analysis Academy, I have seen thousands of research questions. Most of them are bad, but the ones that are good, they lead to high-impact publications. Today, I'm going to give you the blueprint to build a good research question. Let's dive in. First, we will look at the logic of the gap. We will use a cardiology example to show how to find the missing gap in the literature. Second, we're going through the PICOTT framework, and finally, we're going to consolidate everything into what I call the golden sentence. How to turn this acronym into our elegant scientific hypothesis. Before we build the question, we need a reason for the question. Many students start saying, I want to study just heart failure. That is not a research question, that is a topic. To turn a topic into a research question, we need a gap, and I will show you using a 4-step method. Let's look at a classic example involves SGLT-2 inhibitors. The problem, heart failure with preserved ejection fraction HFpEF is a leading cause of death and hospitalization. Now that we identify the gap, we're going to see what is the current solutions and the problem with it. Drugs like beta blockers work for reduced ejection fraction, but they have historically not been beneficial for reducing mortality and preserve ejection fraction. Now let's bring a new player to the table, something that is novel. And here comes the SGLT-2 inhibitors like empagliflozin that show promising results for patients with diabetes and HFpEF. And here's the most important part. Now that we identify the problem, we know the problems relate to standard of care at the moment, and we brought the new player, we're going to build the gap. And here's the million-dollar question. Do these drugs actually reduce cardiovascular death, specifically in HFpEF, or is the benefit driven only by diabetic patients? That uncertainty is your gap. Now let's engineer the question using the PICOTT framework. A good research question is a specific research question, and here where the PICOTT framework comes. P is going to stand for population. Don't just say heart failure. Based on your gap, we need to be specific to our target population. Symptomatic heart failure patients with preserved ejection fraction. Specificity is power. Now let's take a look on the I. I is going to stand for intervention. We need to be again precise. Are you looking at a class of drugs like SGLT-2 inhibitors or into just one single drug like empagliflozin? What is the route of administration? We need to be specific about the intervention that we're interested to study. Now let's look at the C and O. C is for comparator. This is crucial. If you compare SGLT-2 for placebo, for example, you will get one answer, but if you change your comparator and you want to compare them to GLP-1s, you might get a totally different answer. So that's why you must be very specific on your comparison group. In our example, we're going to compare it to placebo. And now comes O, that is for outcome. Here's where beginners get trapped by surrogate outcomes. So let me explain what surrogate outcome is. A surrogate outcome is like a laboratory measurement or a physical sign you substitute for a clinical meaningful endpoint like BNP or blood pressure. Listen to me, just because a drug lowers a surrogate outcome like BNP or blood pressure does not mean it will save a life. So that's why we must include hard clinical outcomes like cardiovascular death or hospitalizations. Editors hate subjective feelings. They don't like very much surrogate outcomes. Always aim for the hardest clinical endpoint available. Most people stop at the PICO, but here in the meta-analysis again, we add 2 extra letters that are double T. And the first T is going to stand for timing, how long the study needs to be. Here comes a Meta-Analysis Academy pro tip. Do not restrict your time. Unless you have a good rationale behind it, like patients in ICU that might need to restrict for 4 weeks of follow-up, do not restrict your time. The second T is going to be for type of study. This is your quality filter. Are you going to accept RCTs and observational studies. For top-tier meta-analysis, we restrict this randomized control trial. But if you can, you also can include observational data if you do not have enough RCTs available in the literature. Now that we have our PICOTT framework established, we're going to assemble the golden sentence. So let's take a look on our PICOTT framework for this idea. So the P is going to be symptomatic HFpEF, the I is going to be SGLT-2 inhibitors, C is going to be placebo, the outcome, the O is going to be cardiovascular death, our primary endpoint, the T is going to, for time, is going to be unrestricted, and the type of study is going to be restricted to RCT. So our golden sentence is going to be the end of this study is to evaluate the use of SGLT inhibitors compared to placebo if it is associated with the reduction of cardiovascular mortality in patients with heart failure and preserved ejection fraction, restricted just for RCTs. This is a scientifically testable hypothesis, clear and ready to become a PubMed search. A great research question is like a laser beam. It cuts through the noise and finds the truth. I want to challenge you. Take your idea, apply the PICOTT framework, don't forget the double T, and post your full golden sentence in the comments below. I will personally read a few of them and tell if they are ready for publication or not. That's it for today. Let's get the paper published.